drives you? What inspires you? Let's ignite your why. Welcome back to Ignyte Your Why Podcast. I'm your host, Austin C. Gullett, and we're here to have genuine conversations with authentic people to help amplify their voice and figure out what ignites their why. Today's guest was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. She's an alumnus of Miami, Ohio University, where she obtained her bachelor's degree in secondary English education. She obtained her first master's degree from Nova Southeastern University in education, and then recently graduated from the University of Cincinnati with her second master's degree in instructional design and technology. She has spent over 20 years in education, with 18 of those in Covington Independent Public Schools, where my heart is. And currently, she is working at the University of Cincinnati Blue Ash as both an adjunct instructor and success coach. Let's give a warm welcome to Missy Graf. Miss Graf, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. That's a mouthful, I know. And
it was, and
I'm old.
I totally just struggled with that, and I was like, I'm not going to go back because that's the best it's going to be for me.
It's a lot of stuff anyway, so no, it's absolutely fine. So how are you, Austin?
Oh, I'm good. I'm glad you were able to hop on last minute. I feel like it's been a struggle trying to get a guest on, but when you commented, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this would be a perfect person, because I always tell people all the time about some of my favorite teachers, and you're definitely one of those. I'm not going to lie to you. And I think it's because you made a lasting impact, and it always shows when I can pick like 4 or 5 teachers that had that impact on me, and you're always one of them. So,
well, thank you. And I can remember. I remember all my students for the most part, whether I want to or not. But I will tell you, like I can close my eyes and I can envision where you and Cameron Griffith sat in my class in English, and the candy bars that were eaten in English class every day in the large quantities. And I know exactly what row you guys were in, kind of close to my desk, but yeah, I know exactly where it was. I remember all those things
with Dusty and Michaela and
yeah, the whole crew. So I can just picture. I just remember Cameron would pull out one candy bar and eat it, and then he just pull out another candy bar and eat it, and you were right next to him. I'm looking like, what is he doing? So
it was before lunch. Like we were hungry.
Sugar it up in my class. That's all right. I can send you on your way. So no, it's nice. It's weird sometimes to talk to students as they are adults now. So, I haven't actually heard your voice in person in a really long time. Like I've heard you when I watch a video of your podcast, but actually getting to speak in person with students I speak to my students, my kids, through social media, and that's pretty much, what it boils down to anymore. But it's nice to be able to hear your voice and actually see you and talk to you. So good to be here.
Same for you. So let's just hop straight into this. So what is your story?
Oh, it's a long one if I'm this old, right? No. So as far as childhood, I feel like I grew up in middle class back a long time ago in the 80s, where, there was no cell phones and you had to turn the TV channel by yourself. But it was fun. I went to a Catholic grade school. I lived in the Coleraine area. There were so many other Catholic grade schools in that area, and I walked to school for the first 5 years, which was kind of cool because my kids have never experienced that. Then I grew up and went to high school at McAuley High School in Cincinnati. It was an all-girls Catholic high school. I really enjoyed the all-girls experience. I feel like that allowed me to have a voice that maybe I would have been a little bit more shy to have. But, I would say great childhood, nothing special, nothing exciting. I was a lifeguard, had fun, did those things, and went to college. I will say that I went to college my freshman year at Kent State University, up by Cleveland, Ohio. And I was the only one to go there, and I went all by myself, not knowing anybody. So I had a random draw roommate, and I went for journalism and PR. I loved journalism in high school, and I wrote on the newspaper. And I really enjoyed that aspect. And I thought, okay, that's what I want to do. So I went up there, and it was cold. it was really cold in Cleveland,
I can
and
only
I missed.
imagine.
Yeah,
Oh,
late
no, no,
effect
no.
snow. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
so I decided to come back home for my second year, and that's when I decided to stay here and go to Miami University. So that's also when I changed my major because as much as I liked journalism and I thought PR and journalism would be for me, I'm outgoing. I like doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot more money in there than education. If you're looking at the PR side, I was like, okay, I think I really want to do education. And to kind of roll it back for a second, I know specifically in third grade, I had this little green journal with a little lock and key on it. And I wrote in that journal, and I still have it upstairs in a closet, I'm going to be an English teacher. And so, as much as I tried to fight it, since I was in third grade, I've known that that's what I wanted to do. So I changed my major to education, graduated through Miami University, and the rest is kind of what leads me up to where I am now. So that's
That's
kind of my
crazy.
background.
I
Yeah.
kind of wish like we didn't have like social media now. Because
I'm
I
so thankful
remember,
I didn't grow up with it.
and I tell people that too. Like I kind of had it, like it was kind of like new, like when
Yeah.
I was in high
Yeah,
school.
you guys were just starting to like
Yeah.
dabble in some of those things.
So
And I can't even
we
remember if
had,
you guys had cell phones much, like
yeah,
very
like
often.
I got my first iPhone in 10th grade, I think it was.
Okay.
Like it was the iPhone, like it was blue. I don't know, like 4C
Was
or
it
something like
like
that.
the heavy one? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it was super old, and I had the Nokia cell phone that had Snake on it. And I tell kids all the time now, when I'm like, growing up, I did not have this. I had to go outside and play with my friends. And I think that's where I truly
Yeah.
fell in love with sports, is just being able to experience those things and not sit in the house and play video games.
Yeah.
Because even though we had like
100%.
the Nintendo 64 and like the Wii came out and
Mhm.
stuff, but I feel like kids are just missing out on so much nowadays because of the technology advancements, and it's just gonna get worse. I can't,
The
I already know it is.
socialization is so less, sorry. Like faces and phones, faces and phones and not wanting to talk to each other. I will tell you, as an English teacher, I've watched it just decline, the ability just to write.
Hmm.
When students started writing the number 2 for TOTOO instead of meaning TWO, that's when I knew things were changing. So yeah, I would agree with you. It's definitely better without the social media growing up.
I agree. I agree. But it's the world we live in now, and it's
It
kind of what
is,
we have to
yeah.
adjust to. But I kind of want to touch on your experience in Covington schools. So
Mhm.
with your background and growing up the way you did, what was it that like kind of drew you to Covington, and what kind of kept you there for all those years?
It's interesting. So I grew up in a very non-diverse
Hmm.
background. And I can definitely say that I didn't have any diverse experiences really. Even at Miami, I would say that, diversity was not the thing that I experienced at that time. And I did my student teaching in a more affluent school district. And I realized when I was there, I'm like, the students aren't appreciative of what we're
Hmm.
trying to do for them always. And I don't want to say that to sound like, I don't know, kind of just being rude about how students were behaving or whatever. But when somebody would say to me, don't you know who my parent is? And, I
Oh
don't, I'm a
no.
student teacher. I'm a 21-year-old college student. Who is your parent? So I kind of knew right then that that's not the area I wanted to teach in. But I graduated and honestly, Covington fell into my lap. And I kind of think that they were, and I hate to say it, but I kind of think they were desperate to hire some teachers. And here I was out of college and I was all eager and excited. And Mr. Finke interviewed me and I was at Holmes Middle School and he literally called me, I think the same day, called me back and asked me, do you want this position? And I was like, absolutely. And I had no clue about anything in the Cov, nothing. I'd been to Covington to go to Main Strasse and hang out and all those fun
Hmm.
things, but nothing about the school district at all. So I was in for a rude awakening and a shock.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started my first year teaching 7th grade. And I remember I was in exactly where my room was, on the first floor of the middle school, all the way in the corner, right before you hit where the elevators are, on the left. And I taught seventh grade, and it was interesting. I can say I truly grew. Mr. Finke, he had come back many times and told me, he's like, I really didn't think you were going to make it because you had the most write-ups in the entire school that year. And I was like, what? No, me, because I think, later on I'll talk about, but me, I'd rather keep you in my class, than send you out. It's punishing me, but it's keeping you there. But I really learned and grew that year, and I realized how much I really liked it. And from that point on, I taught eighth grade. And then we kind of went through a transition, and I was an eighth and ninth grade teacher for a while on a team. I moved upstairs to room 1304 on the third floor, with Brent Durnell and Chase Runyon and Josh Snap. And we were all on a team together. And that's kind of where everything, I think, really started to gel. And I kind of fell in love with my students and the district and teaching, and the relationships that you could really build with students who appreciated what you were there for and what you were doing. And then Miss Baldwin and I made a hop over to the high school together, and Angie Turnick, who was Miss Dot back then, what's his name? Why can't I think of him? Principal, tell me.
This is Mr.
He's
Maines.
in Newport now. Mr. Maines, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Maines asked us if we'd come over, and we said yes. Yeah. I'm like, if you give me a whiteboard and a smart board instead of these chalkboards, I'll come over. And so we came over. And that's where I spent the majority of my time at Holmes, was in the high school, teaching grades 9, 10, 11, and 12, but mainly 11, which was my favorite. It was the sweet spot. So I have all kinds of stories. I mean, my experiences.
I can imagine.
and they're always, and I will tell you, in all honesty, those 18 years at Holmes High School probably shaped me as an educator the most. They're probably some of the best years I've ever experienced in education. And there's been ups and downs. I've had students, we've all experienced, we had a lot of sad things happen in our lifetime as a teacher. I've had students murdered. I've had students commit suicide. I've had students who have been put in jail. I've had students who've thrived and become doctors and gone on to do great things in education. I've had students who, will come back and find me and be like, look at what I've done, and, and beat all these different odds. So it's kind of run the gamut, but it's really shaped the person who I am, because if I'm going to tell you when people ask me, who are you? I mean, the first thing I always think of, I'm a teacher. That's exactly who I am.
And I tell people all the time, it takes special people to work in Covington schools. And our kids in Covington, it's weird talking about kids in Covington because I was a kid from Covington, but they deserve it. Like, we deserve it. Yeah. And a lot of people count us out. And I think that's where a lot of my passion and drive comes from, is because I had so many people tell me that because I went to Holmes and where I was from, I wasn't going to be certain things. And I'm alluding to like the things you're saying is like, I've experienced those exact same things as friends. Like, my friends have been murdered. My friends have been put in jail. My friends have committed suicide. And it's a lot to deal with emotionally. And I never really noticed that until like I was an adult now, when I'm in therapy and I'm talking about these things. Because at the time you kind of just, it's like normal to you. When you think about it, like those things
compartmentalize.
It's not normal. And I just sit back and think to like when I was at Holmes, and I think of the amazing teachers I did have. And I think the teachers at Holmes and the teachers in Covington schools are there because they genuinely care about their students. And you can tell.
Absolutely.
Like you can tell it, you can feel it, you can see it, and it really does shape you into who you are. And I vividly remember one thing in your class, and I had to bring it up because I was like, I'm bringing it up.
I was going to wonder if you were going to remember a couple of things. That's all right. I brought something with me too. So you go
like first. The one thing I will, I'll talk about two things, but one is you would always say like, quell yourself.
I'm so glad you remember. I've been told with you not to tell people to shut up in my classroom. I just told that story the other day to somebody.
I was like, it was one of the most annoying things at the time, but it stuck with me. I was like,
See?
every time she'd be like,
Don't you tell somebody to shut up in here. We're going to use an ACT vocabulary word. That is right.
And then I do remember the first couple weeks I was in your class, you would always call me Aaron.
Oh, because I did have your brother. Yeah. Yeah. I had so many Covington siblings. So many. Yeah.
And I was so stubborn as a student at that time. When people would say my name is Aaron, I would literally ignore them.
Now, see, I don't think I ever noticed you ignored me. That's bad, because maybe I just felt like you were really listening. I don't know.
No, like you would be like Aaron, and then I would just sit there, and I would just, and you'd be like, oh, I mean Austin. Like you would catch on. But those are like two vivid things that like I remember from your class.
I'm glad you remembered the quell yourself. I was telling somebody at my job, my current job, that I did that. And I also, my English teacher fun was the can and may rule. Because when somebody asked me, can I go to the bathroom? I was like, I don't know. Can you? You got a 2-minute penalty. And then they would have to come up and ask me again. Sometimes, you know, they didn't catch on for a little bit. I'm like, it's just okay, go, you know. But yeah,
it's funny because I actually used that when I worked in the after school programs.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah, because it's like one of those things where it's like, can I do this? Yeah, you can, but am I going to let you?
Yeah.
No.
I think so. Well, I tried. So when I changed career paths, I did put most of I had a plethora, my other favorite word, which came from my high school experience and hearing on announcements every day. But I had a plethora of Holmes polos and t-shirts and all those fun things. And they're packed away in my closet. I didn't throw them away or anything because they're special. But look at what I do still have and I do still wear. You see it? I still have a Holmes baseball.
So old.
It is, but it's you know what? I remember I picked these up because Mr. Runyon ordered them from somebody out here in Ross where I live, and I picked them up for him because I live out here and brought them down. This is a quality sweatshirt when this is so old. So I still have it. I still wear it. So I busted it out of my closet for you. I'm like,
that's hilarious.
I remember.
It literally brought me back to like 7th, 8th grade. It's crazy how graphic design has like evolved and changed over time, because we would get the most basic things back in the day and it was like the coolest thing.
So excited, single color, like, yeah, this is great. Yep. Oh, absolutely. I remember doing cheap shirts.
Cheap but effective.
That's exactly it. Exactly it.
Do you remember this one thing before we go on to the next segment? Mm-hmm. Do you remember my junior year when you had me, Michaela, Destiny, and Cameron? And all we wanted to do was watch The Lion King.
Yes. Constant. Yes. Yes. And it always blows my mind what movie students love to watch. But I mean, and this continued all the way through 2019. And it's not that I show a ton of movies in class, but like the week before Christmas break, when everybody's crazy, I'm like, yeah, we're going to watch something. Always Disney movies, always. But yes, The Lion King.
Because Disney's like top tier.
It's my favorite.
Superior. And The Lion King is hands down my favorite Disney movie of all time. Period. End of discussion. And when they made it live, I was so upset that they did not include the Rafiki thing when he talks to Simba about life lessons.
Because I won't see hardly any live action. I'm a Disney purist, and you know I love Disney. I'm like the Disney World fanatic. It's my favorite vacation place to go with my family. But I think the only live action I've seen is probably Beauty and the Beast. I think that's the only one.
I haven't seen that one.
I like that one.
I only saw The Lion King because I was like, I have to see it. It's The Lion King. And then when they left out one of the most important scenes, and I feel like it just gives so much knowledge about life, and you just cut it out, I was just so mad. I was so mad.
No good.
I was like, you made this movie 2 hours long and you take out one scene that is my favorite.
Write him a letter, Austin. Send him an email. You should.
Like White Chicks. Okay. I'm gonna write a letter.
That was such a bad movie. Okay.
I love that movie though. It's funny.
I saw it once, never again. I can never get that hour and a half back of my life. It's all right.
I mean, I think it's pretty great, but
it's all good.
So let's move on to this next segment here. It's kind of the chunk of the entire podcast.
Mhm.
It's your why. So what is it that truly inspires you? But more importantly, what is it that ignites your why?
So I'll probably talk a lot about my experiences in Covington, and then kind of where I've gone from there. But teaching, helping others, it's been my identity. It's been my thing for over 20 years now. And it's something that I've really grown into, because if you would have asked me back in 2001 when I first walked into Holmes Middle School, for example, that's where I was going to stay my entire high school teaching career, that I probably been like, no way. And I drove a long way to get to Covington. So from where I live to get to Holmes High School is a good 45 minutes. So 45 minutes
Sheesh.
down, 45 minutes home every day for all those years. But it was my time, and it was my peace and quiet time. You know, I had young kids at the beginning there, and my time to reflect and think. So I really grew to love that commute. But I stayed at Holmes High School because I love the students and I love the people I worked with and what we stood for, which was creating, you know, an environment that's safe and welcoming for students who may not have that safe and welcoming environment when they leave school
Hmm.
every day. And also, like you said earlier, coming from where I live in Ohio, I had no clue about Holmes High School. I had no understanding of the history. I had no understanding or any idea about any of the bad rap that Holmes tends to have or tended to have back then. In fact, I was like, what are you talking about? So when students would come up to me and say, well, we can't do this, or we're not going to do this because this is what people say about us, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I've never heard this before. I kind of felt the need to push and create an environment in my classroom, hence no saying shut up to each other, to make it positive for kids and to let them know, like, you really are not what people are saying about you
Hmm.
as a collective school. And in fact, when I would travel to places, specifically Disney World, I would wear my home stuff, and people knew Holmes for only positive things. Basketball mainly, but they're like, I know Covington Holmes. I know, you know, like Coach Dave Henley and these, you know, old school people
Yeah.
that were around a long time ago. And I never heard anything bad. So I think for me, the biggest thing is to be somebody's support system. And I'll never forget that somebody told me a very long time ago, because, you know, at Holmes and in other schools, people come and
Hmm.
go, you know, a lot. And they're like, don't get stuck there for the students because you love the students so much. I'm like, but that's exactly why I'm staying here. I can't believe
Yeah.
you're saying that. It's getting stuck. It's not getting stuck. Um, my favorite part about teaching is just the connections you make with kids and watching them be successful, and helping them succeed. And it's painful sometimes. And you have to have a thick skin, and you have to know that 99% of the time, the things they're saying to you and the names they're calling you are not really about you. It's about other things going on in their life. But creating a support system and helping them make it through, that's really what I enjoy the most, which kind of led me to where I am now. So I will say it was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. It kind of fell in my lap that UC had a position open. Um, there were some things going on at that time in district wise that, you know, some people were unhappy with. I love all my fellow teachers. I miss my people. I miss sitting in the library with Miss Kennison and just chatting it up for hours with some coffee, you know, and Miss Turnick, all those wonderful people, Mr. Hune. But it was a good time in my life to make a change, and the position fell into my lap to be able to do something in the same realm. So in 2019, I left Holmes and I went to UC and I became a success coach. And so what I'm doing now is I'm doing the same thing I did in the high school classroom, but kind of on a different level with
Hmm.
young adults who need that same support and wraparound services because they don't exactly have that, to help guide them through and be successful in their first year of college, and to make sure that they have, I always tell them, I'm your person. So I'm their person. I'm their person for as long as they want to keep me as their person. And so I have some students graduating this year from after 4 years that I've kind of followed along the way. But that's what I love about it, is just being able to see students be successful, and to help guide them and make sure that they have a bright future, no matter what that is, whether it's in college or in the workforce or something else.
I think it's amazing, honestly. And I feel like a lot of like my passion and who I am today is because of certain people from growing up, because I feel the exact same way. And I think what makes like you such an amazing teacher is like you were there for so long. And at Holmes, we're so used to teachers kind of just leaving and giving up. It's how it feels sometimes. I remember in middle school, we had like 3 teachers quit in the middle of the school year just because they couldn't handle it and things of that nature. And just when you think of our backgrounds and where our students come from, especially in Covington, where 90% of the students qualify for free and reduced lunch. And at the time, about 15 to 20% were homeless, whether that's bouncing house to house or not having a stable place to live. Those all play factors into your everyday life. And it's interesting that you say like kids will call you names and say things, and it's not because they mean it at you. It's just there's something deeper internally that's going on. And when I worked in Covington schools, I still work there now as a coach, but I always try to make the environment we're in the best place possible, because this could be your safe place. This could be your escape from reality of whatever's going on at home. And kind of like you alluded to, like, I want this to be your place. I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to feel happy. I want you to feel safe. I think that's the most important thing, is making kids understand that they're safe, heard, and valued is the most important thing. And when you have a teacher like you who was there for 18 years, the impact you make, I don't think you realize how important it is. And it's truly amazing. And I wish people were more like you in all reality, because you have the right mindset, you have the right heart, and you've impacted so many lives in Covington. Because I know, talking to classmates and friends, like, we loved you. Even though like we thought, even though sometimes we thought you could be a bit like annoying.
I know, I'm sure.
With the
it was on purpose.
with the may I's and call yourselves and all of that. But I tell people all the time, it's kind of just like my parents. Like, I never truly understood the lessons and support that they were giving me until I became an adult. Because now when you look back in life, you're like, oh, this all makes sense now. And you appreciate it a lot more as an adult than you do as a kid. And I never truly got to thank you. So thank you for everything that you've done for me and all the kids in Covington.
I've learned just as much from you guys as you've learned from me. I tried counting it up one time how many students I probably had walk through my door, and I would say thousands. But I remember, I always tell people, teachers remember who you are. They remember who you are. Because some students be like, do you remember me? I'm like, absolutely. And I can tell you a student from my very first class in that 7th grade year named Anila Harris. And she was the funniest kid ever. I loved her. They call her Nellie. And she found me at a graduation one year, many, many, many years after she had graduated. She's like, do you know who I am? I'm like, I absolutely know who you are. And so I've always called my students my kids. I would have conversations with people and be like, well, my 2 children that are mine, and then my kids, or I would always call my students my lovelies and things like that too, all the time coming in. Because you guys taught me so much about things. And I'm not going to cry. Just about life, and to be appreciative, and how wonderful people are who just need to have a chance to show themselves, and to have a voice and have a chance. So when I see people on social media, on my phone, who find me on Facebook, I love to see it. I love to see all the things you guys are doing and thriving. And I'm shocked when I'm like, oh my God, that couple's still together. Or, oh my goodness,
Same.
This is what they're doing. Yeah, I'm sure, right? But it was just such a huge part of my life. It will always be a huge part of my life. And the experiences we all shared together. There were some really rough goes at times, and people, and I can't remember exactly who was part of what class that had certain things that happened, but man, we weathered different principals together, and we weathered, different, things that happened in the community together. But some of my favorite memories are just seeing how students would come together in my classroom and kind of band together, and talk to each other. And honestly, Austin, the reason why I don't let people say shut up in my classroom is because as soon as you tell somebody to shut up, there's like a negative feeling and connotation that comes with that, right? And my classrooms were often very, very eclectic. And I loved that. And people would talk to each other in my classroom who would never say two words to each other in the hallway or outside of school on the street somewhere, never acknowledge each other. But man, I would watch it happen in the room and be like, this is cool that these people, you guys were kind to each other and you would really be respectful and caring with each other. And that's what I love to see. So hopefully that just keeps on happening.
Yeah, I think Covington is so unique. And I will say one thing about Covington is when something happens, we will all come together and it's kind of like a big family. And you feel it throughout the school. Like, yes, people have their differences. And yes, there were like cliques and everything. But when it all came down to it, like we all like, it's like a family. I don't know. I take pride in being from Holmes. I take pride in being from Covington.
Absolutely.
And I try to tell people all the time. I vividly remember when me and Reed were in freshman year at NKU, English class. Funny enough, English class. But she was sitting like behind me and like we were introducing ourselves. Of course, you have those icebreakers of, I'm so-and-so. I went to this high school. I'm studying this. And when me and Reed said we went to Holmes, there was a girl who like was whispering about going from Holmes. And I just remember Reed being like, girl, look at you and look at me. We are in the same class. So what does that say about you? And I was like, oh,
good for Reed.
I was glad she said something because I was like super shy. And I was just like...
Yeah, I'm not a confrontational person. I would be like, oh.
I would have been like, oh, she's a hater, but okay. I wanted to just let it go, but I was like, good for you. Like, way to stand up for yourself and me, because I feel like I was a part of that.
Exactly. And I think what people who don't know, for example, about Holmes is just the amazing opportunities and programs and things that are available to students there. And I was really proud to know how much money per student we spent as a district to provide so many services and so many wonderful things. And we were able to do that. And we had a great youth service center. You guys had the APIB program. You had a lot of people there who were behind all of you in order to help you get to the point where you can make those good decisions about what you wanted to do for your future. So I'm glad Reed stuck up for that because Holmes is a great school. I have always been very proud to tell people where I taught. Like, I've taught at two places in my life, and most of those years have always been at Holmes High School. So it's a huge, huge part of who I am. And I brought my own kids to Holmes in the summer program. I would teach one summer program week a summer, just so that I could come see everybody and hang out. And me and Travis Turner would teach the English week. And I bring Jake and Audrey down because, again, we don't live in an extremely diverse area, and I wanted my kids to experience what I was experiencing, and have an upbringing where they are very aware of the world around them and accepting of the world around them. And they loved it. They still talk to me to this day about certain things they remember from that. So
that's amazing. Hey, I tell people all the time, Holmes is what you make it, right?
Yeah.
You can either love it or you can hate your life, and I think that's any school you go to. If you apply yourself and you do the things you're supposed to do, like you can be successful regardless of where you come from. And I tell people that all the time because where I'm from doesn't define me, just plays a piece of my story and who I am. So
exactly.
So I kind of want to segue into, I want to segue into this next segment here because it's my favorite segment of the entire podcast. Most people who know me know I'm a huge mental health advocate, and any chance I get, I will talk about it. So my question for you is, how have you been taking care of yourself mentally?
Because usually we're the last ones, that we think about, right? So taking care of our own self mentally. I I do things for myself. I'm a big advocate of getting outside every day. I mean, if I have to bundle up and it's 30 degrees outside, do I enjoy that as much? No, but once I get going, I like it. So I try to walk every day. Like I hurried and got home today and I went out walking with my good friend since kindergarten who lives down the street. We went out together and walked and kind of just, debriefed for the day and did those things. Spending time with my kids and my family, especially because my kids are older now. They're 17 and 20. They were such itty bitties when, you guys were around, and I don't see them as often. And so it's nice to just kind of go hang out, on UC's campus with Jake, and, spend some time with Audrey. So I think, spending time with family and just kind of slowing down a little bit because I'm always on the go. I feel like I'm always busy, but I make myself busy on purpose. So I'm in a different place.
Same way. I make myself busy. I make myself busy because I'm an avoider. I avoid dealing with emotions and talking about things. So I keep myself busy. But I think it's interesting how you say you want to go outside every day. If it's cold, I'm not going. Period. Like I can't do it. But I am trying to, I was having this conversation with one of my coworkers today. I was like, I want to start going to the gym again. But the hardest thing for me is I would always come home and then you have to change and go back out. Where I was like, I'm just going to start packing a bag and just going right after work. So it's on my way home.
Yeah. I just might as well stop.
Might as well just make a right turn instead of a left.
Yeah.
And just go and see how it goes. But I think physical activity in any kind of form is a form of therapy. I'm really surprised. I thought you were going to say reading.
So I know, right? And I'm going to say this and people are going to be a little shocked. But I am not, in the past, I'd say 5 to 10 years, not, especially 5. I'm not that big of a reader as I used to be. I think a lot of my reading came from when I was teaching, my favorite book is Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. And I love teaching that novel with my students. And putting on plays and doing fun things, but it's just not something that I do as much. And maybe it's because I am always busy. I like to listen. My favorite thing, honestly, to do is to get out there and listen to podcasts while I'm walking. That's my favorite thing, I think, at this point. And I started getting into podcasts when I taught at Holmes. And I don't know, were you part of the serial podcast realm when I was there? Was that part of your class or was that after you?
We talked about stuff like that, but I wasn't interested in it. So, which is crazy because now I have a podcast and things of that nature. But I think back then when I was in high school, I was just sports. That's all I did.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And because all I focused on. I started
getting into podcasts really when Serial came out, and Sarah Koenig produced, the first Adnan Syed Serial podcast. And I still have students to this day constantly send me updates when they see things through Facebook, and I'll send messages out to students too. Remember this graph? I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. So, but listening to podcasts, walking, that's kind of my release, I think now. And I do, and just a lot of talking, and I do a lot of that with my students on a regular basis at UC, especially because exactly what you said, mental health is huge. And we do a lot of help with mental health with my students, and just a lot of listening and getting them the right care and people that can help them, with what they're going through.
Hey, that's the most important thing, because I kind of looked at your job title and what you do, and you work with Cincinnati public school students who are first gen.
I guess correct? I didn't tell you exactly what I do now, did I? And all that stuff that I said. So what I do technically is, yes, I am a success coach and an adjunct, but my success coaching role has flourished and developed and changed over the past 5 years. But in essence, I work with first year students who are at UC Blue Ash, and they are Cincinnati Public School graduates, and they are part of our success coaching program, which is the shirt that I have on today, which is my Success Starts With You. And on the back, it says your success coach has your back. So it's so cute.
Aww.
But yeah, isn't it? Even with the bear cat, right? Even with the bear cat.
I guess.
And you see, okay. But we provide those wraparound services for students and support. So when they get to us, they, have somebody to help them not just learn all the systems and the things that first generation and first year students need to know, but also to have a resource. We have students who are experiencing homelessness or food insecurity, and transportation is a huge issue. I have students who ride a bus for 3 hours each way between transfers just to get to campus. So helping them eliminate barriers or deal with the barriers that are going on with them at the moment, in order for them to be successful in school and to have the opportunities that they want to have. So it's expanding. I'm excited about the program. I'm a huge advocate of the program. I love it. We've made it into a course at the university. We are reaching out to students in all different areas now, not just Cincinnati Public Schools. It's still a huge part of what we do.
Right.
But I'm a huge advocate of every first year student needs a success coach. So I just adopt 100%. Students from everywhere.
100%. Yeah. I agree, because being a first generation student, it is hard, especially when I saw the things my brother did in college. I was like, I don't want to do that. Right. My brother partied and he got into the wrong crowd and eventually dropped out, but then went back and finished school. But when you don't have parents who went to school, it's kind of hard to lean on them. And it's like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And they're just like, well, I didn't go. Because my mom always told me, she's like, I can't force you to go to college. She was that mom where it's like, I didn't do it, so I can't force you to do something I didn't do. So it was completely up to me. And year one was so hard, just because you lose literally everything that you're just used to. Me just
you have
being
no structure
at all. I was used to playing sports. Sports was my identity. And I think I really struggled with that outside of high school. Was who am I without sports? And I didn't know who that was. Yeah. I didn't know who Austin was deep down in the core. So it was kind of figuring out life, because I was undecided for 2 years until I had to pick a major. They're like, you don't have any.
Have to. You're running out of gen ed credits.
They're like, you don't have any more gen eds besides math. Because I waited till junior year to take math because I hate math. And I think the work you're doing is valuable. It's important. And I love that you're still in a helping role and you're still helping young adults who come from a very similar background of Covington students. I work with CPS now, and those students are so important as well, and I love them to death. And they come from all walks of life as well, and you never know what you're going to experience in a low income school district, but it's so rewarding in the end, and I just love
it. Absolutely. And the great thing about UC Blue Ash is that we are open access. So students who may not have the opportunity to go to college otherwise, whether it was because they just kind of blew a couple of semesters in high school and tanked their GPA, or things were rough, or they, just didn't work to their full potential in high school and they couldn't go somewhere else, they can come to us and be successful and then transition to, the Uptown campus in Clifton, and continue on. And so it really gives them the opportunity and the confidence, I think, to be successful their first year with us and then know that they can really do it. We have so many wonderful services. I will tell you, I know we said earlier, working in a place where you are valued is important. And I feel like this is the place where I have ever been the most valued by my peers and by people above me. Our bosses are just amazing. They believe in the work we're doing. They really help us to do whatever we need to do to help our students. And I've never seen so many people together be so compassionate and passionate about what they're doing for kids. So there's some great opportunities that are happening at UC and UC Blue Ash in particular. So I'm hoping this program continues to grow. I mean, it took me until my 40s to realize that I'm a first generation college student. I didn't even realize that until I started working and really paying attention to being a first generation college student. I'm like, you know what? I am that. And so that's part of who I am and my identity too. And then I realized it was difficult to get through that first year of school and kind of navigate things on our own. So this is great. And it's wonderful because those kids are my kids too. And I'm just, I'm your person. So come and find me. So they bring me other students from, other school districts that they've graduated and things. And like, can you help me too? Or can I, be in part of your problem? Like just all of them come.
Just come on. It's
fine.
open door policy. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. And I genuinely love your heart. And I think we need more people in this world like you. And I think I want to learn more about the program, but we can have an offline conversation about it. But I think the work you're doing is truly valuable. So never change. Keep being you.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin. You too. I love all my kids.
Of course. Well, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on last minute. It's been a true pleasure to talk with you. And it's different now because I feel like we haven't talked in real conversation in about 10 years. So
yeah. And I don't have to tell you to like sit down and be quiet or to, say quell yourself or any of those things.
It's been a pleasure. It truly has been. If anyone wants to continue having a conversation with you about anything that we've talked about today, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So you can get a hold of me on email, especially through my UC email, which is grafms@ucmail.uc.edu. And you can find me on Facebook, like so many of my former students have found me. And under there, I am under Missy Warren Graf. So my maiden name is Warren. So you can find me in that way too.
I was so excited to add my teachers on Facebook after I graduated. Just because I only added certain ones. I was like, there's certain ones that I just don't want to lose touch with. And you were one of those people. So,
oh, thank you. And I will tell you, I don't let all my students in. I will not accept them all. So, I'm the same way, a little bit. So consider yourself honored if you're part of my Facebook family.
I appreciate it. I feel the love.
Thank you. I feel the love.
No, thanks. Where did that just come from?
Look at that. Conjured that up.
That was so creepy. Oh, let's see if it does it again. I don't know. Oh, snap. I just learned something new. Sorry, just got off track. But I just wanted to say thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to put all of Missy's information in the description below. If you all happen to reach out to her, please just give a note on how you found her. We will greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you give us a follow on all social media platforms. It's at Ignyte Your Why. We're on every platform possible. So that's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, we're there. So make sure you give us a follow. And always remember, guys, find your purpose, ignite your why, and I'll holler at you guys later. Peace. That